Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy, Nate Weitzer, on the East Coast. We've got a 6-game slate here on Thursday night in the NBA. In this one, we're taking a look at the Suns hosting the Dallas Mavericks. I think it's going to be a pretty good one, as always, when these two teams face. We've also got another game video up and our player props, so make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along with us. We also want you to head to thelines.com. You can check out everything we're talking about there, all the great written content we have about the NBA this season, and our odds finder tool is on there. You can use that to make sure that you are getting the best juice back on all these bets you make in the NBA this season. Nate, let's go ahead and jump into this slate and then talk Suns and Mavs.
Yeah, which is one of two games we can guarantee both teams will be trying at. And the first one is the Knicks plus 8.5 at Celtics. We break that game down for you in a separate video. Total's only 223, seems a bit low. Then you got the tanking Pistons plus 7.5 at Nets, who are on a back-to-back. Bulls minus 5.5 at the tanking Hornets. Cavs minus 8.5 at the tanking Rockets, so they might sit Mitchell. And the Spurs are on a back-to-back. They're plus 13 at the Clips. Totals at 233 there. And the Spurs are giving up a hell of a lot of points these days. So are the Mavs, who are plus 1.5 at the Suns. 221 total. But this is a wary spot in terms of the total for sure. I mean, anytime we talk about the Mavs, in terms of them, how many threes they can hit or miss, there's a ton of variance here. And last time against the Suns, they hit 23s. They were up 26 by halftime, and they snapped that 10-game regular season losing streak to Phoenix. Of course, that's kind of a moot point because we all know the Mavs won a 7-game playoff series against the Suns, and clearly they don't own them, does Phoenix. But Phoenix is definitely a team to tail right now, I guess. Won 4 straight, got CP3 back in 2 of those. And as much as, they're having their issues behind closed doors, Ayton clearly not happy, still not a great team without Devin Booker. They're at least competent after that 2-12 stretch. They're definitely looking to hold serve at home. And you trust CP3, the best future NBA coach, according to that survey Mark Medina shared with us for sure, as just that kind of stabilizing presence on the floor. Look, they have a 71% win percentage with him over the last season and a half. And their defensive rating is 5 points better per 100 possessions since 2022 with him, including, the last 4 right now. Their defense has been great. A 102 defensive rating against some poor teams, some okay offenses. I mean, they hosted Memphis in there, so that's definitely impressive. But and they limit 3-point percentage in that span, which is obviously the biggest key when you go up against the Mavs. There's stark home road splits for both these teams. I don't know if you can read into it as much because it is kind of a big rivalry at this point. But I mean, Dallas, the biggest thing, no Christian Wood, no Maxi Kleber, which has been the case for months. So no interior defense. I mean, no guy who can serve on both sides of the floor, play with Luka. And that offense continues to be dead last in several categories, except free throws. So, I mean, and Phoenix is below average guarding free throws. So I guess there's a case there to say we should see some points. But look, the road home stuff, 8-15 straight up on the road are the Mavs. They're 1-9 straight up as road dogs. And yeah, that really fits into the strength of schedule you look at lately. Like, they've had mixed results on the road, but they've played Houston twice, Portland twice, and got smacked in both of those. The Lakers and Clippers, who both had stars out, and the Spurs and the Thunder. So when they're home road favorites, you might be able to trust them. But, slight dogs here. And with CP3 back and the Suns looking like they're getting a bit of their mojo back, I think, you take them without a spread, basically, minus 1.5 to win.
Yeah, I know you're talking about the total. I'm going to stay away from it too. I mean, in their last, 9 games, the Mavs are averaging 236 points a game, like in their games. That's crazy when I say the Mavs. If you've been following anything the Mavs have been doing since Jason Kidd got there and maybe even a year before, you know that they don't play fast enough to get to 236 unless they are playing at the second worst defensive rating in the league in that time, hemorrhaging points pretty much wherever you want them, to be honest. I don't know what they're necessarily doing well. They're rebounding occasionally, but not in their last 9. At least on the defensive side, they've been a little bit better, but overall 27th in rebound percentage. Phoenix is currently 9th in second chance points over their last 4 since they've gotten Ayton back, and CP3 has been in there as well. They're still, Dallas still playing in their last 9 at about a 97 pace, maybe a little bit fast for them, even 96, 95 is where they usually like to play, yet they're still giving up those 121 points at that pretty slow pace. And you look at it's the road stuff as well. I mean, they're bad on offense on the road, but at least compared to at home. But that 120 defensive rating on the road versus the 113 is where you go, what is going on here? And Christian Wood isn't exactly like a defensive stopper, but he's definitely their best rebounder when he's on the floor. And that's going to be a huge problem for them if Phoenix is going to continue to get second chance points, and DeAndre Ayton is going to kind of have his way getting rebounds. We know he doesn't necessarily back you down. He's got a nice little touch around the rim, and that should be enough on those second chance points. With other thing I'm looking at here with no Christian Wood, like the rebounding is a huge part of it, but that's the other thing for the offense is like Luka with and without Christian Wood, there is a bit of a difference with those on-off numbers. He's much better. He's not bad without. There's no point in the game where Luka's bad necessarily, but when he's when Christian Wood's on the floor out there, he definitely gets a few more assists, and that does open things up for him on the 3 a bit more when you talk about the pick and roll game that Christian Wood allows for them, the pick and pop, and even a bit of a roll for him this season. So Phoenix in their last 4, I like what I'm seeing on offense from them because Chris Paul is back, and Chris Paul is back because they're back to being 4th in terms of the percentage of points they're shooting from the mid-range or scoring from the mid-range. 4th in that category, obviously behind Brooklyn and Chicago, where they will always remain. But 30 assists per game, direct correlation of CP3 in there. A few more threes at 14.5, shooting 44%. And really, the fact that they're number 5 in opponent 3-point percentage, they're like 4th in terms of opponents, the amount of threes that the opponents are making. So the percentage can sometimes be skewed by just make or miss from deep, but if they're not making as many because they're not even getting the attempts the way that Phoenix is stifling the 3-point line right now, then what's Dallas going to do? Take a step in and shoot from 2? Nobody knows how to do that. Why would they do that? So I think the fact that they're also 5th in percentage of their points from free throw are the Suns. Dallas allowing the 2nd most free throw attempts in their last 9. Number 1 points in off of assists for the Suns as well. Also CP3 stuff. So I mean, just the identity of the team back to being CP3, but the defense as well with CP3 and what they've been doing is exactly what you need to do to stifle this Dallas team that if they're not making threes and they're not really working off of Luka just getting 37, which we've told you before, he needs to get 37 to 38 points for them to get a W this season. And in their losses, he's actually averaging about 29 or 30. His props at about 34.5. I don't like the over in this one, despite what I'm seeing from the offenses in this team. I do think the pace remains slow enough that it scares me to take an over in this one, even though that would be what some of the numbers indicate is likely to happen. It's too 50-50, to be honest. Like this could be 219. It could be 208. It could be 230. I would say that's about as high as I would take it. And if it got up a little bit higher, in these the 220s, I might take that under. But most importantly, Phoenix is in a good place. Dallas is in a very bad place. Phoenix has guys that they need back in the lineup without sans Book, obviously. But Dallas is trending in the wrong direction with those injuries, as they still don't have Kleba back and Wood. So it's just a good spot for the Suns to keep rolling and the Mavs to just keep falling.
Yeah, the scoring is too dependent on the refs because you look at Dallas somehow both 1st in free throw to field goal ratio and dead last in giving up free throw to field goal ratio. Yeah. So it's like even when they play at a slow pace, the game stopped a lot while guys are scoring. Yeah. But they do struggle guarding the mid-range. Number 1 limiting 3-point makes, 2nd in attempts, and that's why they're 21st in 2-point percentage, and that's got to be worse without Wood, without any sort of rim protector typically back there. So that is why the Suns have kind of owned them, I think, is because like, okay, you're going to force us off the line. That's great. That's where we thrive, especially with CP3 back. So I think that's why we like Phoenix to make this a 5-game win streak and to make Dallas now 2-8 in their last 10.
And we've been talking all about CP3, but what about Cam? Our guy Cam Johnson, a favorite on this show as well, finally back, and there's got to be some correlation there to Cam Johnson coming back roughly 5 games ago, and they've been winning in their last 4 specifically. So that is all the time we have for you in this one. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along with us. Got another couple videos up for you as we do each and every weekday. So until we see you next, happy betting.